Hi, this is your host, Kristen Howe. I'm so excited to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Dr. Symeon Rodger. Now, he has a fascinating background. His more sedate side expresses itself as a university professor, a married priest of the Eastern Orthodox Church, and a best-selling author on personal transformation methods used by ancient cultures. On the more edgy side, he's a martial arts expert, an emergency management expert. He's trained in counter-terrorism by veterans of the U.S. and Israeli Special Forces, and he used to run top-secret intelligence operations for the Canadian government. Years ago, he organized a famous online event called the Mindset Mastery Virtual Boot Camp. He is interviewed and been interviewed by many of the world's leading authorities on mindset, and he is a co-creator of a law of attraction program that was widely judged so well that it was promoted by several stars of the hit mindset movie The Secret. And today, he's here to share with you a forgotten key to manifesting the life you want and why this process goes way beyond just getting the stuff you want, which you know I feel passionate about. Now, on the call today, you're going to discover the 4 factors that have sabotaged your manifesting abilities so far and how to overcome each instantly. How 18th century physicist Sir Isaac Newton has been making your life miserable since birth and how to finally give him the boot. I love that. You'll discover a fun scientific process to give you faith that the law of attraction does exist and that it has been functioning perfectly in your life all along. And you'll discover a systematic 21-day manifesting protocol that will turn you into an expert manifester, even if you've tried and failed before. You'll also find out why working with your own body is critical in your manifesting success and how to do it right. You'll discover the 2 often ignored keys to leveraging the law of attraction, and you'll find out how Dr. Symeon will be your manifestation medic and perform CPR on your ability to use the law of attraction to dramatically change the results in your life and how to make simple adjustments to give yourself startling results and completely change how you relate to daily life. So this is a lot. I want to jump right in there. Dr. Symeon is going to over-deliver. He always does. Thank you so much, Dr. Symeon, for joining us today, and welcome to the call.
Thanks, Kristen. It's a pleasure to be here.
I love having you here, and I'd love for you to share because, wow, what a background you have. Just a couple of minutes to give us an idea of how maybe some of the turnarounds you experienced that allowed you to get to the point where you've manifested the high level of success you have today.
Well, what I can tell you for sure, Kristen, is it certainly wasn't always like this. Not at all. I had huge mindset blocks when I first decided to go into business. And, you know, a lot of them were the same kinds of blocks that everybody else has, that so many people on this call have. And the key thing is, you know, so many of us at perhaps we're still at this point, have been trying to use the law of attraction and feel terribly stuck. And tonight we're going to diagnose that problem and show what I want to do is show everybody how to get over it and show you everybody that there is a way you can do this that is actually fun. Because in order for this to work, we have to get you having fun with the manifestation process. And there's a really cool way to do that instantly bypasses all your blockages.
Well, oh my God, I have to hear it.
Well, okay, we'll get to that.
What I love that you just said was fun. I think that is an element that is missed so often. It is so essential. So I'm so excited that you're bringing that part of it into it.
It is so essential, and that's what we're going to jump into almost right away. I just wanted to say that what I'm doing here, this isn't an A to Z law of attraction program. It's not the soup to nuts. I think there are too many of those out there already, and probably everybody on this call knows the basics of the law of attraction. But unfortunately, those basic general concepts those are what are holding people back, Kristen, because there's not enough detail. And some of the emphases are a little bit off. They're just a little bit wrong. Mm-hmm. And one of them, you've hit on one of them. So let's talk about this right away. There are a couple of law of attraction key concepts that are missed in most programs. In fact, they barely rate a footnote. And that's the problem because they are so central. And one of them is the one you hit on about having fun, or as to put it in maybe another way, is the necessity of feeling consistently great. And that's really the key. So feeling consistently great. Now, what does that mean? Well, feeling consistently great is primarily an emotional category, right? We want to feel great. We want to feel really good about who we are, where we are in life, what we're doing. We want to feel gratitude, which is one of the most powerful things you can feel. Precisely because, ask yourself what it is in your life that attracts. What is it that attracts persons, events, and things into your life? What is it that creates your circumstances? Is it your thoughts? Well, the obvious answer, Kristen, is no, it's not your thoughts. If it were as simple as thoughts, nobody would have a problem with the law of attraction. You'd think of something and it would happen, right? So it's not our thoughts. It is our emotional tone. It's our emotional energy. That's what we're vibrating. And this probably has something to do with, or is probably expressed by the fact that the energy field of the heart is several thousand times stronger than the energy field of the brain. Mm. So what we're broadcasting is how we feel, and we're going to talk more about that from different angles on this call, but that's the basics. That's why we really need to feel good, because when we feel good, when we feel emotionally wonderful, we are vibrating at a higher rate. We are feeling better. We're broadcasting that positivity outward so that even if we're not focused on something in particular, what we're drawing toward us is something similar to our own vibrational state. And that's really, really the key. Mm. So that's why we want to do that. But we have to get over a key problem, which is the idea we have in the Western world that our emotions are in our heads. We were taught in psychology class, 25 years ago, and they still teach this, that emotions are in your heads, that they're just biochemical processes. Well, they're not. We know for a fact that our emotional energy is linked to our body's energy system. So our entire physical structure is part of our emotional makeup. And that's part of the reason why in our head-centered culture, where we have this huge divorce between our brain and our body, why we're so emotionally incompetent, because we can't relate to our emotions. But your emotions are linked to your body's energy system. For instance, particular emotions, both positive and negative, are linked, and Chinese medicine charted these thousands of years ago, to specific organs and places in your body. So that, for instance, joy is an emotion chiefly associated with the heart. Courage is associated with the lungs and the lung energy system. Confidence with the kidney and the kidney's energy system. And the list goes on. And the same with negative emotions. And you also know, and you know this from your own experience, I think everybody, that if you have a trauma, if there's a psychological trauma in your past, it's lodged somewhere in your body. And in fact, you can do this little experiment right now. You can ask yourself this. Go back to a time when you felt a very strong emotion. Now, it could be positive or negative. It doesn't matter at all. It could be, say you have had a crush on somebody, intense affection for somebody. Put yourself back in that mindset. Where in your body did you feel that emotion? Same thing with if you have a terrible fear of public speaking. Imagine going up on stage and then ask yourself, where do I feel the really unpleasant sensation in my body? And your body will tell you. So we know that in order to work through our emotions, we have to work through the body. It's the most efficient way. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that tonight, but there are some tools you can get that will help you with that. We just don't have time to stop and do that. But the important thing here is that in order to feel consistently great, we do have to take care of our physiology and work through it. It's not just a mental matter. So that's the first thing, is that feeling consistently great. Okay. The second thing, that second concept that people don't get and don't emphasize, is the need to switch your guidance system. And what I mean by this is the following, that we're brought up in the Western world to be problem solvers, right? We're taught from the time we're knee-high to nothing that it is up to us to solve our problems, the challenges that we face in life. And we have to do that using our own brain and using our own knowledge. And that's what we call the rational guidance system. And the problem with the rational guidance system is huge, because with the rational guidance system, the entire burden of solving all your problems and figuring out the solution is on you. Mm-hmm. It's on you. So it forces you into a situation very quickly where you feel fear and anxiety because you don't know the solution. Wow. And because you don't know the solution, because you feel this fear and anxiety, you're thrust immediately, as we'll talk about this a little bit later, into what we call defensive physiology. And that's a low-level version of the fight or flight response. And when that happens, what are you vibrating? Well, you're vibrating the energy of that anxiety. So what this does is disempower you. And it is a false view of reality. And we'll talk about its origin later because it's kind of fun, and we'll give it the boot, as we said at the beginning. But the thing is, the wonderful and liberating thing about the law of attraction is the truth that you do not have to know the solution. You don't have to figure out anything yourself. You are totally absolved from figuring out how to do it. All you have to know is what you want, the result you would like to see in a given situation, and focus on that and feel that result. That's all you have to do. You don't have to figure your way out of it because, and experience proves this time and time again, the solution that is going to come to you is not something you could have devised yourself. You see, with the rational guidance system, you have to figure it out using only, of course, what you know, because you can't use what you don't know. But the truth of the law of attraction, and it is a law, and we'll talk about that, is that the universe is not an impersonal, cold, mechanistic, and hostile place. It is not. All you have to know is the solution you want, and knowing what you want and focusing on that, the solution, the how, will come to you, and it'll come from outside your awareness, outside, usually, what you're aware of. The persons, the events, and the things that you're aware of will not be part of the solution necessarily. Something will come out of the blue, something you didn't expect. And that's the wonderful thing, that you don't have to, it's not limited by what you know consciously. And that is what we call the intuitive guidance system, because your intuition is constantly giving you prompts. The problem is you've been brought up in a civilization that's taught you to ignore those prompts and override them. Now, some people call this the emotional guidance system. I'm just a little bit leery of that designation because well, you know,
you already said.
We all know neurotic people who are very emotional, and we're not talking about that kind of emotion. We're talking about a deep knowing that's deep and internal and getting to that, and we'll talk more about that later, too. So those are the two key concepts we want to keep track of as we go, the two things that are radically underestimated. And we all know, I mean, we've all been through this, or perhaps are probably still, most people are still in the midst of this, Kristen, of trying to manifest something and feeling very, very stuck. And that's what I'd really like to focus on now, is how to get unstuck. Because I can't think of anything more important to focus on than that.
I can't either. I think if I could look for a show of hands from everybody who's listening, I can't imagine that there would be a single hand down. So yes, let's go with that.
Okay. Well, there are four main factors that are keeping you stuck. And I'm going to say you are stuck because I believe that 99% of people trying to use the law of attraction are effectively stuck. They may have had some tiny measure of success at some point, but they feel generally stuck. And the wonderful news is it actually doesn't have to be this way. So let's have a look at that. Now, the first factor that's keeping you stuck where you are is what I call being wound around the axle. Now, that expression may not mean a lot to you, didn't mean much to me, but wound around the axle had a specific meaning to a friend of mine several years ago, who whenever he would meet someone who was really upset about something, he'd say, wow, is she ever wound around the axle about that? So this wound around the axle has the idea, it's kind of the image of, picture an elastic band that's been wound up and wound up and wound up. So there's so much tension and energy in it that's trapped. And wound around the axle really expresses this, that probably what you have tried to do, because I know I did this too. Big mistake, but everybody does it. So you're all absolved, but everybody does it. I've done it. Kristen, you've probably done it. And it's this. The moment we learn about the law of attraction, what do we try to do? We try to apply it to the area of our life that hurts the most.
Say that one more time.
We try to apply the law of attraction immediately to the area of our life, the part of our life that hurts the most. Whatever needs fixing the most, that's where we look first. There's a bit of a problem with that approach. It's understandable, of course. It's totally understandable that you would do this, but realize that that area of your life that hurts the most, and it could be anything, by the way. It could be financially related. It could be career related. It could have to do with a health challenge. It might have to do with a relationship. It might have to do with anything. Or there may be 2 or 3 of them in your life. It's okay. It doesn't matter what it is. But what you have to realize is if that's the monster issue in your life, or one of the monster issues, that is an issue that is more than likely surrounded by the biggest cloud of negative emotional energy that you can imagine. It's like a well-defended fortress. And I think if you think back in your life to when you started using the law of attraction and when you tried to apply it to some big monster issue in your life, something that was really bugging you or hurting you, think back to how you felt when you would focus on what you wanted in that area. Think back to how you felt deep down. And what you're going to realize is that when you started, more than likely, when you started trying to apply the law of attraction to that area, and you started trying to focus on how you wanted it to be, what came up for you intellectually might have been what you wanted, the outcome, but what kind of came up for you emotionally at the same time was probably a feeling of dread, a feeling of, oh my God, how can I really do this? Will it really work? This is so big. I don't know. I hope this works. So you can pretty much feel the emotional tone of those words, right? And that emotional tone is anxiety. There's a lot of fear and anxiety in there. So you're caught there in the fear cycle, because there's so much negative emotion around it. And when you're in that fear cycle, as we said, you begin to fall into the defensive physiology. And when you're in that defensive physiology, I'll just give you an example. There's a friend of mine who has a big phobia about money, big phobia, big lack mentality when it comes to money. And it's unfortunate because he's a very, very intelligent, very self-aware person. He's also a very highly trained professional. He's an engineer. But he doesn't believe that anything with money will ever go right for him. And because of this, if we were to hook him up to the proper medical instruments and ask him to focus on money, even using the law of attraction, imagine the way it should be, if you hooked him up physiologically, you would see his blood pressure would go up, his heart rate would go up, his respiration would go up, and a bunch of other physiological markers would change. His brain would start secreting different neurotransmitters and hormones, so that the content of his bloodstream would actually change. His feeling state would deteriorate, and he'd be in a worse feeling state when he's actually trying to manifest what he wants than when he was thinking about something else. So you can pretty well imagine where that's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Because you're going to manifest your feeling state, not what your rational mind says you want. You're going to manifest, in other words, your expectation on a deep level, and that deep level expectation is expressed by that emotional state. So if you were to do that, his goose would be cooked, because really he would think about it, when he goes into that defensive physiology, even at a low level, even at a level that he doesn't, it's not a full-blown panic attack. He might not even notice the physiological changes in himself. But when he does that, what's going to happen is his perceptions of his situation will be distorted, and he will not be able to enter into what we call the creative frame of mind. Now, the creative frame of mind is a key, because the creative frame of mind expresses, and we'll use another word for it in just a few minutes, it's when you feel really, really good about what you're doing. And he can't enter into it because he doesn't feel really good about what he's doing, right? So, in other words, when you try to apply the law of attraction to one of these big monster issues in your life right off, you're doomed, frankly. But it's okay. There's a way out, but you are doomed if you take that approach. There's a better approach, but if you take this one, which everybody does, and we've all done it, that's why it doesn't work, and that's why we feel so lousy. And so it's a bit like, to use an analogy, it's a bit like learning about the law of attraction and right away trying to apply it to this monster issue in your life. It's very much as if you took your first ever martial arts class. You knew nothing about fighting before. Took your first martial arts class, and the moment you walked out the door, you went and challenged Bruce Lee to a death match. I mean, this is only going to end one way, folks, and it's not pretty. And that's the way it's ended for you. It certainly ended that way for me, but there's a much better way. So what you really need is an approach to manifesting that takes you, this is very important, an approach to manifesting that takes you out of the high stakes world of your monster issues and allows you the freedom to play in a place where you're not wound around the axle. A place where the stakes are low and you can play and you can have fun. You've got to learn there. It's a bit like, you don't learn soldiering on the battlefield. You learn it in training first. You get good at it there, then eventually you get to the point where you're super competent and you're not afraid of going into battle. And that's all, I'm just using this as a metaphor. But this is the case. You're not going to ever feel really good by taking on your biggest adversary right away.
Right.
Not going to happen. Right? So that's the first thing. And related to it is the next trap that everybody falls into. And the next trap is all about being out of alignment. Trying to manifest without internal alignment. And, you've imagined what alignment is. You have all felt alignment before. Alignment has certain key markers. And to illustrate this, I'll just give you a story of my own that was a perfect example of manifesting, of the manifesting process going right, even though I didn't know it at the time. And I should have, because I was allegedly an expert in mindset, but, some things go right by us. And the teleseminar series you mentioned, the Mindset Bootcamp, the idea for that, Kristen, came to me way back in 2006. And at the time, I was relatively unknown. I was kind of, at the beginning of doing things. And the idea came out of the blue. And when the idea to organize this teleseminar series on mindset and law of attraction came to me, I felt really good about it. In fact, I felt so good about it, I couldn't put the idea down. I would always be jotting things down and writing out how this could work. And every time I looked at it and worked on it, I felt better about it. And when I started to take action, there were mentors there who would support me. I talked to them, got encouragement. And then I started to call potential speakers. And so here I was, totally unknown, but calling people who were people like, Howe and people who were well-known and extremely successful. And I called a whole bunch of these people, and it felt really good. I got these people to agree to be guests on my teleseminar series. And it still felt really good, even though there were challenges. But the challenges didn't faze me, even though some people said no, and even though 2 people were actually rude. Nevertheless, I felt really good about it. And the whole thing worked, despite enormous obstacles and despite the fact that it was 10 times as much work as I thought it was. So it drove me nuts for about 4 months. But it still worked. And I feel the benefits of that series still to this day, because from that series, I got some very close friends, mentors, and I found my business partner from that series. And so everything fell into place. Not a day of my life has been the same since because I did that, because I acted on that prompting. And that's an example of the intuitive guidance system, but it's also an example of alignment when everything feels good. And when you focus on something, it's like all the focus is there and you feel great. And that's what alignment is. And that's the internal state you need. It's a bit like Christmas morning, kind of as a feeling, right? And now, can you see why you don't have that when you approach the monster issues in your life, right? Pretty simple to understand why if you're approaching a monster issue covered with negative emotion, that you are not going to feel this way. So clearly what you need is an approach to manifesting that brings you into alignment repeatedly so that you get a feeling for what inner alignment is, and eventually you can recreate it at will. Because you're not going to learn what alignment feels like when you're busy going up against your biggest adversaries. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
Now, about those biggest adversaries, you're going to kick their ass, but you're not going to do it today, okay? You'll do it a little bit later, one thing at a time. So that's the thing. And the third trap of the four is trying to manifest without clarity about what you want. And this is a big one because, of course, manifesting generally requires focus. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know what you're focusing on, what are you going to manifest? And this is a huge obstacle, as you know, Kristen, for people, that there's almost nothing that people find harder than getting clear on what they want. And, you know, if you're listening to this and this describes you, and it certainly described me for the longest time, the reason is that you have been systematically taught by your culture not to exercise that muscle. Because think about it, the muscle that you use, and muscle is just a metaphor, of course, in order to get clear on what you want has to do with being able to dream, being able to have passion, knowing what you're passionate about, and getting passionately engaged with what really turns you on, with what you love to do. And that's something that a lot of people stop doing when they're in about their mid-teens, because that's when society puts enormous pressure on you to grow up, be an adult, make intelligent decisions, make decisions about your career, about your life, about your marital status, about this and that. And life takes over. And pretty soon, you've lost yourself. You've lost touch with who you really are, with what you really love to do. And you're in the world of society's obligations. And that's why you have many people, if you're listening to this, you may not have exercised this muscle, much if at all, for 20 or 30 years. And that's why it's really hard to know what you love, what you really want in life. That's why. And all it takes, of course, is like any sort of, it's like a physical muscle. All it takes is practice to re-engage. But you don't want to, you know, you'd probably like to learn how to manifest reliably as you go along rather than have to wait till you're perfectly clear. And you'd like to do it in a way where not being perfectly clear doesn't bring up negative emotion for you, so you feel okay about it. And this is a big problem, because a lot of people, when they use the law of attraction at the beginning, one of the first steps, of course, is to be sort of clear on what you want, and they're immediately thrown into a negative emotional state because they're confused, they're frustrated. When they try to focus on what they want, they don't know what it is.
Right.
So what you need is a process that circumvents this whole problem until you had time to build or rebuild that clarity muscle. And it has to be a process that gets you used to specifying what you want to experience, yet without provoking negative emotion or stress within you. And there is a really easy way to do this, and we're going to get to that. So there are solutions to all of these, and they're dirt simple. It's just that you don't hear much about them. And the solution is not what you think. If you think I'm going to tell you to go do EFT, you're wrong. I love EFT, but this isn't the solution. The fourth trap that you fall into, the fourth and final one, is trying to manifest when you don't believe in the law of attraction. That's going to be a hard pill to swallow, because you're saying to me, wait a minute, that's a good thing that's not me. He's not talking about me now. After all, I signed up for this teleseminar series, and I wouldn't have signed up for this teleseminar series if I didn't believe in the law of attraction. So, I'm off the hook. Wrong. I am talking about you. If you've been trying to manifest the life that you want, or to change your results in life, and you feel stuck and you feel you're not really getting there, then a good deal of your problem is that you don't believe in the law of attraction. And I'm using the word believe in a very deep level, not in a superficial intellectual level. Okay, I'm using it almost in the biblical sense, where to believe or to have faith, which is the same word in Greek, has a very deep meaning. It has to do with trust. It has to do with 100%, that gut level, 100% certainty that something will be so. And that when you have 100% certainty in something, well, let's take the law of gravity. You have 100% certainty in the law of gravity. If you throw a ball up in the air, it never even occurs to you that ball might fly off into outer space. It wouldn't even occur to you. You know the ball's coming right back down. As soon as the momentum runs out, down it comes. And you have 100% certainty in the law of gravity because you see the evidence. You see the evidence all around you. You see it all the time. It's in the physical world. It's very easy to see. And if you fall off your roof, then you feel the law of gravity. That reinforces it too. Nothing like a tactile experience to reinforce things. So it's very much, however, the same with the law of attraction, but there's one difference. You see, the law of attraction is a law, and it works 100% of the time. The problem is that it functions on a different non-physical level, and because of that, you don't know what to look for. Your culture has actually taught you not to observe certain things. And because of that, you're not seeing the evidence and connecting the dots. A lot like me, by the way, with the teleseminar series that went really well, I didn't connect the dots till later that this was a perfect example of the manifestation process, that all the markers were there. I didn't connect that until later, which shows you how smart I am. Okay. But you see, in order to develop 100% faith in the law of attraction, the only way to do it is to see the evidence for yourself in your own experience. Because unless you experience it for yourself, you can't have that 100% certainty. You've got to see it with your own eyes. So, in other words, you've got to collect the data. You've got to see it in your life, and the only way to do that is to be taught to see certain things. And then you can go observe them and catalog those things almost, and then you'll have your proof. And when you have proof, boy, does your world change. Boy, does it change when you see that this law is functioning 100% of the time and working really well. And the neat thing about that process is that even if you're not manifesting exactly what you want, you can still understand why and see the evidence. So it allows you to observe both your feeling state, your vibrational state, and the result, and to connect the dots. So it's a really cool process. But the thing is, and this is very, very important, remember, you cannot get 100% certainty by forcing yourself to get it intellectually. You can't think yourself into it. It can't happen. The only way to get this certainty is to see it. Seeing is believing. That's why it's terribly important to be able to see it, and that's why what you really need is an approach where you can get the evidence and see it for yourself and feel it for yourself. That's what's important. And it has to be an approach that's foolproof. Because, aside from the divine creative power that we all have as human beings, we're also the biggest bunch of idiots in the galaxy. So it has to be foolproof. We know that. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to be talking about, an approach that will do this for you. So those are the 4 factors. Okay. And there is a solution for all of those 4 factors. We'll get to it in just a few minutes, so just be patient. And before we get there, we just want to kick someone out of your life.
I was going to say, when do we kick him out? Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to kick him out now. And, it's a little bit ironic that your life should be tyrannized and made miserable by a British scientist who's been dead for 300 years, nearly. But in essence, that's what's happening. When Sir Isaac Newton researched the mathematical principles that pertain to movement and energy in the physical world, he was making some of the most important scientific discoveries of all time. There's no doubt about it. And his discoveries on the sort of most external physical plane are extremely valuable and have allowed us to do amazing things with technology and with our lives. There's no doubt. You want to see Isaac Newton's principles at work? Think of sending a man to the moon and getting him back. There's a good example.
Right.
So Newtonian physics, it works, but it's not the whole truth. And this is the catch. You see, when Isaac Newton formulated these principles, and we're talking here around the turn of the 1700s, he wasn't really intending to establish an entire worldview. He was looking for mathematical principles. However, these quickly entered the popular culture of the day and became a whole worldview. And in that worldview, what we call the Newtonian worldview, and I don't want to pin it all on poor Sir Isaac, it really wasn't all his fault, is that the Newtonian worldview is that we live in a universe that is extremely mechanistic. It's impersonal, mechanistic, and hostile. And in the Newtonian worldview, and here's the most important thing about it, absolutely the most important thing, in the Newtonian worldview, consciousness cannot influence material substance. It cannot influence the physical world. And because of that assumption, that root assumption that our consciousness does not affect reality, something interesting happens. Because think about it. If your consciousness does not affect reality, then life, all the events of life, all the persons, events, and things of life are things that are outside you, and they're happening to you. So life is happening to you. And because it's happening to you and you can't do anything about it, you can't control that experience, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, and your consciousness has no effect on it, you're forced into the position of a victim. You are disempowered. And that's the origin, by the way, of what we talked about, the rational guidance system. And don't forget, the rational guidance system, as I said, it puts you in a very defensive position because it puts all the burden on you. You have to solve everything yourself, but you don't actually have the knowledge or the tools. What could be worse, right? So This is the Newtonian worldview. And it forces you into that situation. So, of course, it generates automatically a certain level, a very low level of fear and anxiety is automatic with this worldview. Because it's a very mechanistic worldview, which you cannot change. You cannot control what you experience. And because of that, naturally, everybody feels this anxiety. Everybody is in a very low-level defensive physiology. And this makes people very easy to manipulate, by the way. And rulers of all kinds in all countries have been doing this for centuries because it's easy to manipulate people who are already afraid. People whose whole focus in life is simply coping, who are not there creating their life, who are not there enjoying their life, but are there just to cope because they don't think they can do anything else. And this worldview also believes, of course, that matter is real, that material substance is solid and real. So that if you knock on your desk, wherever you are right now, or a wall or a door, that is actual material substance. It's real. But that isn't, as we know now scientifically, and we know from quantum physics, that's absolutely not true. It's all just energy, rearranged in different ways, and most of it's empty space. So how the world appears to us and how it really is are two entirely different things. But in Sir Isaac's time, they didn't know that. We do. And of course, this Newtonian physics, this is just an aside, led to the biological reductionism of the 20th century as well, right? Where the human being is viewed as nothing more. You are nothing more, according to the standard reigning biology that, they still teach for some reason, even though it's been disproven, that standard biology, which teaches that you are really nothing more than a bunch of water and 2 or 3 kilograms of chemicals. So you're just an electrochemical machine. And of course, when things aren't working right for your body, when you have physical symptoms, it has to be compensated for by adding more chemicals. And so you see why we have the medical system we do and the pharmaceutical companies that control it. It's a paradigm. But it's a paradigm that totally ignores the last 9 decades of science. We're really good at that, by the way. We're good at totally ignoring the implications of what we already know and have already proven scientifically. We're really good at that. So there you see that it's time to kick Sir Isaac out of your life. Now, Sir Isaac wasn't the only one. The idea that the universe is somehow hostile and impersonal and mechanical, there are precursors to him that go all the way back within Western Christianity to people like Augustine of Hippo, who was a bishop in Latin-speaking North Africa back in the 5th century, the writings of St. Augustine, as well as Anselm and Aquinas, the major figures of the scholastic period. There's a lot of negative thinking that goes in here, and philosophically, and that's taken up later by Descartes and Darwin and other people. So it's a cultural thing transmitted through an entire civilization. It's not just Sir Isaac. But once we understand what we're now told by science and what, as a matter of fact, the ancient world's best traditions of spiritual life, health maintenance, and martial arts always told us, including the original Christian tradition, that the world isn't like that. The universe is not mechanical, not mechanistic. It is not hostile, and it's not impersonal. And your consciousness affects everything. And so the real key here, and this is the real kicker, so many people, Kristen, think the law of attraction is a sort of self-gratification. It's just about getting stuff you want. And nothing could be further from the truth. The law of attraction, on its deepest level, is a total emotional detoxification of the kind that everybody needs and almost no one ever gets. It's a deeply spiritual process designed to reconnect you with who you really are. It's about an entire spiritual transformation. And that's why it's so important to understand that if you're not fully functional emotionally, if you have control issues, if you're trying to control people or have power over them, or if you refuse to see certain things about yourself, if you're blocking out reality, that this process isn't going to work well for you. You may manifest stuff, but it's going to hit you. It's going to turn around and bite you. An example of that, the most extreme example I can think of in history, is someone like Adolf Hitler. He was a perfect master of the manifestation process, by the way, except for one thing. He used it for the wrong purpose, and it killed him. Unfortunately, it killed another 50 million people in the process. But a typical example of manifestation gone wrong. Now, none of us are like that, but, we have to know that our intention has to be genuinely good, genuinely spiritual, and as close to as genuinely pure as we can make it in order for this to really work wonderfully well. And so that's the basics. That's what we really all need to know, that there is a process, and I'll talk about the process in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. It was so clear how you were putting everything together. I didn't want to jump on your toes. So it was like, hey, this is awesome. This is fantastic. So, okay, but I want to know a little bit more. I know you talked about how working with your body is critical, but that's something that I think is so essential because I think people get really cut off.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can really tune in a little bit more? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we just kind of ignore and push through.
Absolutely, there is. In order to work with our body, we have to reconnect the body and mind. And I'll do a really, if it's okay with you, Kristen, I'll do a really quick exercise now, really quick, but it's a lot of fun, and it gives you the basics and shows you and lets you feel something you may not have felt before. What I'd like you to do is hold up the finger of one hand, just one finger, just hold up one finger in front of you. And I would like you to focus all of your mental attention on the tip of that finger. And as you focus your mental attention on the tip of that finger, ask yourself this one question. What do I feel? What physical sensations do I feel at the tip of that finger? Using only the power of my mind. What physical sensations are there? So you might want to close your eyes for a minute. All you want to do is feel with your mind what's going on at the end of that finger, the tip of that finger. Try it. See what you come up with. Anything coming up for you, Kristen?
I am feeling a little tingling, some throbbing, and like some coolness.
Well, that's a good spread, actually, because we typically get answers that are tingling, throbbing, coolness, or heat, various types of sensations like that. And there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you felt is perfectly fine. The point here is this. The first thing is that you have detected what's going on physiologically in a remote location on your body using only the power of your mind. Now, that's interesting by itself, but it's much more interesting than that. Because if we could hook you up to the proper instruments, we could demonstrate to you that by focusing your mental attention on the tip of that finger, you actually changed the physiology of the tip of that finger. You altered the molecular structure. How so? You increased the flow of blood, the flow of oxygen, and therefore, according to Chinese medicine, the flow of energy or qi to the end of that finger. And you did all of that with the power of your mind.
Oh.
Now, if you increase the flow of blood, oxygen, and energy to a part of your body, is that a good thing?
It depends.
Well,
yes, I would typically say probably, yes.
Well, yeah, and that's correct. I mean, it is fundamentally, it's a healing reaction. You've created that healing reaction exclusively using the power of your mind. So what you have done is you have used consciousness to change physiology.
Wow.
You have created a healing reaction. Conversely, if we take, if you find someone who's in a very worked up negative emotional state, you'll notice that their breathing gets higher and higher in the chest, right? And as the breathing gets higher in the chest, the emotion gets more out of control. And chest breathing, which is the kind of breathing that most adults do in our culture, everybody does almost, unless they've been trained otherwise, is when you chest breathe, you're very susceptible to negative emotional states. But anyway, if you find someone who's very worked up, if you get that person to breathe down deeply into the abdomen, the negative emotional energy will dissipate, typically. Because abdominal breathing is normal to the human person and is almost impervious to negative emotional states. So the more you breathe into the abdomen, the calmer you get. And that's an example of the opposite. That's where you use physiology to change consciousness. With the finger, when you focused on the tip of the finger, you used consciousness to change physiology. With breathing, you can use physiology to change consciousness.
Interesting. I love that, though, that the focus on your finger, so it says so much, not even just physically speaking, but what our attention does to something.
Oh, yeah.
What our focused attention does to something. It breathes life into it. So I guess you would even say, be careful what you're focusing on.
Always be careful what you're focusing on. Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. So I'd love to hear some success stories, maybe some of the things that people have experienced working with what you're teaching here.
Working with the principles that I'm teaching here, I've been very fortunate to have some people experience some rather amazing things. And I have to say, the people I'll tell you about right now experience these things very quickly, very soon after starting to work with the kinds of material I'm talking about tonight. But it doesn't always happen this way for everybody, and I'll explain that in a minute. I had one guy I was talking to who had been trying to sell his, I guess, rather dilapidated 10-year-old Jeep Cherokee for, I don't know, at least a year, if not two. He'd been trying to sell it, had absolutely no takers. Once he learned this, he simply put out an intention, and the next day he had a buyer. And he just about fell off his chair, the poor fellow. And there's another lady that we worked with who, all in the space of a week, she experienced the miraculous healing of a young girl and got more business clients and a marriage proposal. Whoa. So she wasn't too unhappy about all that, of course.
That's a good week.
Yeah, that was a good week. And but the list goes on, right? It's this kind of stuff that happens, but those are very external examples. And you should never feel badly if stuff like that isn't happening to you, because the thing is, you'll find people who say, if you say, well, has anything changed? They will say, oh, I do feel so much happier. Or they'll say things like, I'm not stressed. I go to work and I feel fine at work. It used to drive me nuts. It used to stress me out. Now it doesn't. And so these things that are more intangible, that, they can't exactly prove to the external observer, those are actually more important.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually, and everybody listening knows how passionately I feel about this, that all of the stuff is great. The money, the love, the cars, all of that stuff is great. But what you just said is perfect. The intangible things, when you actually have those working for you in a positive way, the tangible stuff just sort of happens as gravy on top. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. And I think personally that with the law of attraction, what's going on is that all the stuff you get, being able to change your reality and manifest what you would like to experience, is, in a way, it's a side effect. What's really going on is the emotional purification. That you're really learning to get past, especially the fear cycle, the whole fear-anxiety thing, which is the biggest destroyer of human life.
I agree. I completely agree. So what I love about what you just shared is, there are people getting those amazing, tangible results, and that's fantastic, but also people getting, boy, I know so many people that if all they could do is just feel happier, I mean, that's it. That's what we're looking for. So that's awesome. And I know there's so much. You put together a special offer for everybody here. So I'm going to give the link because there's so much more to this. And I think it's really cool how you've done it. And I love the 21-day element to it. The 21-day systematic manifesting.
Okay, cool.
Like that makes it something that's really like, it sticks out at me. So everybody, and I highly encourage you to go check this out right now. To access this page for yourself, simply click on the special offer button that's on this page. So go for it, Dr. Symeon. Let us know what we're going to find there.
Okay. Well, everybody, it's a good page to bookmark because what you'll find there is a summary of what I've been talking about. So, if you ever want if you haven't taken notes or anything, and that's quite okay, but if you ever want the quick cheat sheet, at least you'll have it here. So that's a good thing to do.
That's cool.
And then if you go down that page to have a look at the offer, what I'm talking about now is called the systematic manifesting miracle. The systematic manifesting miracle, which is 3 weeks to easily, effortlessly, and reliably creating the life of your dreams and loving every moment of the process. It's a 3-week journey or 21-day journey. And the whole thing about this 21-day journey is its purpose is to get you having fun with the manifestation process because it won't work if you're not having fun. And it allows you instantly to bypass all the fears, doubts, and self-limiting beliefs that have stopped you in the past. It's going to prove to you that the law of attraction is a genuine law that has been working infallibly in your life from day one. In other words, you are a perfect manifester already. It's just you haven't been manifesting, not everything you've manifested is to your liking, but you're doing it very well. So, don't worry about that. Your abilities are top-notch. And it's going to give you an ironclad faith in the law of attraction, which is very important, an ironclad faith, because you will have seen the evidence. It'll leave you totally confident about your ability to manifest the life you want because you will have already seen some results. And it will give you a simple, scientific, and systematic approach to manifesting the life you really want. And it's an approach you'll have at your fingertips for the rest of your life. Now, how does it do that? Well, very, very simple. We get you, as I said, out of the high-stakes world of dealing with your monster issues so that you can come and play for 3 weeks. And you can come and play in the low-stakes world where there are no threats and no consequences, because what you're going to be focusing on is the results you want in each day, no bigger time frame than the coming day. And in fact, most of it, we're going to be dealing with what we call a special process called interval design, where you're focusing on a short period of time, maybe just 1 or 2 or 3 short periods of time in your day, and you're going to actually focus on creating the results you want in those very short periods of time, and there are very particular ways to do this. It's a very special method, and it works gangbusters, and it's so much fun. And the neat thing about it is even if you don't get exactly what you want in one of those intervals, it doesn't matter because it still becomes evidence. It will still correlate with your emotional state. And that's the really cool thing. You'll be able to build evidence no matter what happens. In other words, even if you quote-unquote fail, you're still succeeding wildly because you're proving to yourself the law of attraction exists.
I love that. So there's no not succeeding.
It would be impossible. The only way not to succeed, Kristen, is not to do it.
Well, there you go.
That would be the only way. Unless you're, maybe drunk all the time or something, or otherwise incapacitated. But there'd be no other way to screw this up. It just couldn't happen. What the program consists of is first of all, there's an ebook version that describes the process. There's also an audio book version that describes it, obviously, as an audio in case you're traveling or whatever. You can always have it with you. So there are those 2 versions. And then there are also, during the 21-day period, and I have to say this, the 21-day period can happen whenever you want it to. It doesn't have to happen right away. If you want to engage in it right away, that's okay. If you want to postpone it for 3 weeks because you're going on vacation, that doesn't matter either. It's all there for you. In other words, we're not doing it together necessarily at exactly the same time. But all the material is going to be there for you. And every day of this 21-day process, every morning for that 21 days, I will be sending you an audio, a short audio it's basically an inspirational message that will also outline the concrete tasks for the day so you know exactly what to do, what to focus on. You'll know exactly what to watch for, what to watch out for, and it will inspire you to enjoy the process. And every day you're going to get one of those. And the book will tell you the process and I'll outline it for you in sort of the broad outline, and then the specifics come with the daily audios. There are also 8 other audios to come that you can listen to at your leisure anytime. And these are very important to understanding the law of attraction, being able to put it into practice. One is called, not surprisingly, The Importance of Feeling Consistently Great. Second one is how to switch from your rational guidance system to your intuitive guidance system. There's how to free yourself from the tyranny of the Newtonian worldview, which we've talked a little bit about, but you'll get much more detail. How to get totally clear on what you want to be, do, and have. There are ways to get clear, how to get clarity. You just have to know how to do it and be willing to make the effort to do that. Then there's understanding the mind, which is the biology of the manifesting process, understanding biologically how this is working inside you. There's how to use your body as a key to feeling consistently great, and of course we just did that exercise, so people got to feel a little bit of how the body and consciousness work together. There's how to clear your emotional blockages quickly and effectively, and what energy healing can do for you, which is an interview with a master energy healer and friend of mine, Catherine McClenahan, a fantastic energy healer who talks about how to use energy healing. And, you may have thought that when we're talking about getting over blockages, and I say this program gets you past your blockages immediately, it does that by using certain processes whereby you don't have to face these blockages. You can begin the manifesting process and begin it very fruitfully without taking on these monsters in your life. And by the time you're ready to take on these monsters in your life, you'll almost be laughing at them, because you'll get yourself out of the Newtonian worldview. You'll get yourself ironclad faith that this is really working, and you'll see the evidence of how much and how easily your mind affects your reality. And that itself dissolves a lot of blockages. I mean, there's still other methods you may want to use. You may want to use EFT or TFT, which are meridian tapping techniques or whatever. That's okay. So that's the systematic manifesting miracle, and I would love you to join us on this 21-day adventure. It's going to be a great time, and we'll be getting, comments from lots and lots of people about how it's going for them. I'll share all that on a regular basis. And also, when you're going through the program, you have email access to me, and I will answer your questions as quickly as I can. The regular price for this is $147, but today, for everybody, it's just $97. Not just today, of course, but as long as your offer is up, Kristen.
Of course. Absolutely. Yep. And that's it's absolutely extraordinary. And to be honest, I can't believe that people actually have email access to you. I think that's amazing as well. So that's definitely something that is above and beyond, as you tend to do.
Well, we're not quite finished, because if you'd like to join us on the 21-day journey, you will get the Somatic Power Attraction Program absolutely free, the whole thing.
Wow.
And you can see it farther down on the page. You can see it consists of a number of things to do with Chinese Qigong. My best-selling book, The 5 Pillars of Life, is there. There's also the Warriorship Black Belt program, which has weekly units on how to beat stress, master meditation, control your time and energy, get your mind on your side, get in superb physical shape, master nutrition, detoxification, everything the school system should have taught you and didn't.
Right. So true.
And there's also an audio on there created by Dr. Carol Look. Carol, if you know anything about the emotional freedom technique or EFT, Carol is one of the biggest experts in the world in EFT, and she's perhaps the EFT world's top expert in using EFT to create abundance. And she created an audio specifically for that program. So that's there as well, in addition to 4 other audios that I use to help you manifest faster. So all of that's free if you come and join us on this 21-day journey on the systematic manifesting miracle. That's it. I'd love to have you on the 21-day systematic manifesting miracle, because it's a huge adventure and it is so much fun. And it will prove to you that you can use the law of attraction at leisure, at your will, and you don't have to be stuck because of these big emotional monsters from your past. And you don't even have to wait until you've defeated them using, EFT or some other energy psychology method. You don't even have to wait. There's another way to work around them. It's smarter, it's shorter, it's faster, and it's a hell of a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did we talk about right at the beginning of the call? How important fun is. It's so essential.
It is totally essential, Kristen. Absolutely, totally essential. Yep.
Absolutely. So everybody experience today's package for yourself simply by clicking on the special offer button. And thank you, Dr. Symeon. You've just been amazing. You're so clear in everything you're sharing, and I really appreciate it. There's such an authenticity about you that I think is really exceptional, and I appreciate that. Is there anything you want to share with us before we go?
Well, if there's anything you take away from this, take away the necessity of working on your feeling state. Nothing could be more important than that. Work on your feeling state. That's the real key. As you said, it's all about having fun. It is, because when the manifesting process is working, you're loving it. When you're getting what you want, when you're aligned, you're loving it.
Dr. Symeon, I can't wait till we get to do this again. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.